First, I'd like you to weigh in, Congresswoman, if you would, on the second and third complaints, right? So I guess you heard the news item we ran before you, which is that Makabayan Bloc and another group led by former Congressman Chavit Singson and Mike Defensor have lodged complaints, impeachment complaints against the president. Now, the Secretary General, Cheloy Garafil, wasn't there to officially receive them. But these two groups are saying that it's deemed filed because number one, the Makabayan Bloc left it at her office, and the second group, former Congressman Defensor, said, well, it's there's no discretion given to the SecGen to refuse the filing. That usurps constitutional authority given to the lower house. What do you think?
That is actually a call that falls to the authority of the Secretary General, no? As to the parameters that she will apply in receiving or having it received whenever he is not around in the office, it is a decision that must come from her. No, I apologize that I cannot comment on that particular issue because I understand that it is Secretary SecGen Cheloy Garafil who is in the best position to answer that.
But is there not anything in the House rules or House ethics protocols that defines, okay, what happens when the Secretary General herself or himself is away and a formal complaint is lodged? Is there not such a provision?
I am not certain if there is specific rule on that, but I wish to believe that since impeachment complaint is a very sensitive document, perhaps the staff do not have the necessary confidence to take action or even receive that without the instruction or authority coming from the Secretary General herself.
But is it also not true that the role of the office of the SecGen in cases of impeachment is only ministerial, meaning sila lang yung tagatanggap? They don't really have to exercise any discretion, Congresswoman, when it comes to that. So how does that work pag absent po yung SecGen? Even if for other matters, does the office stop functioning or receiving like documents and stuff?
Well, I agree that that is a ministerial function. However, it is still the power and the authority of the head of office to decide on that. And if the staff who are around in the office do not have the confidence to decide on the matter, then I believe that there is really a problem if the SecGen is not there and no one is willing to receive the impeachment complaint.
And just to clarify, obviously, it's the office of the SecGen that is tasked to receive these papers. But does she report to anyone? Like, is technically like the speaker, is he her boss? And so, can he then kind of decide for her in her absence?
Well, under the rules, it is really the office of the SecGen who has to receive the impeachment complaint. But I don't think it is necessary for her to report to anyone concerning the discharge of this particular function.
Well, Congresswoman, one of the key issues back in the 19th Congress, if we recall, was the timing, particularly when the SecGen would need to transmit this to the office of the Speaker. And there was that word immediately. But how do we define that word? And has this been clarified in Congress already?
Well, as far as I am concerned, by immediately, it means right away, no? And as a matter of fact, the first impeachment complaint that was filed against the president, I saw it in the news, has been transmitted already to the office of the speaker. Now, with regards to the second and third impeachment complaint, I could see that it is the availability of the SecGen because, as I heard from the news, she's on official business overseas. That prompted this problem of those impeachment complaints not being received by the office of the Secretary General.
And Congresswoman, as we speak, there are now 3 impeachment complaints against the President Bongbong Marcos. But at what stage or what scenario would trigger a consolidation of all these complaints?
I understand that after the transmittal from the office of the SecGen to the office of the Speaker, the latter has a period of 10 session days to include it in the order of business of the plenary. And then the plenary has a period of 3 session days to transmit it to the Committee on Justice. Based on the Francisco ruling, it is indeed the referral of the impeachment complaint to the Justice Committee that completes the initiation process, which means that it triggers the running of the prohibition period, which provides that there should be one impeachment complaint only against one impeachable official per year. No? So I understand that once one impeachment complaint is referred to the Justice Committee, it technically bars the subsequent impeachment complaints.
Okay,
And
so
has the first impeachment complaint against President Marcos been referred to your committee?
Not yet, because we're still on recess and we will be resuming
Oh,
on
yes.
January 6, no? Ang
26,
nakita ko lang sa
26.
news, it has been, that will be this coming Monday.
Yes, yes.
So, ang nakita ko lang sa news, transmitted siya sa office ni Speaker, but even the referral, the inclusion of the impeachment, the first impeachment complaint in the order of business of the plenary, I think cannot be done until and unless we have resumed our session. And that will be happening the resumption of session will be happening on January 26, this coming Monday.
You're right, Congresswoman. I did note it resumes January 26. I thought January 26 na because there's been so many things happening. I thought it was the last week of January
many things
already. I
happening.
apologize for that. But have you had a chance to,
As a matter of fact, we have not seen each other, no? Kaya even to this time, wala pa kaming official information except those na nakikita ko sa news, no? Even the Justice Committee has not yet convened, no? Tapos yung mga Kongs, they are in their respective districts. And I think all of them are busy with their own concerns in their districts. So it will be January 6 when we will be getting the official information about this impeachment complaints.
So everything you know about the first impeachment complaint, you've seen on the news. You haven't seen hide nor hair of the actual complaint.
Yeah.
and having said that,
Nasusubaybayan ko lang sila sa news eh.
Kami na
Sabay-sabay lang
kami na
tayo.
magbabasa for you, Congresswoman.
So, Congresswoman, having said that, no, so Monday pa magre-resume yung session, that means the second and the third complaint are not, kumbaga, in trouble or in danger of just falling out of circulation. I mean, there is still time. Although the third group said they will not refile on Monday, the second one says they left a copy there. I guess good faith na lang talaga come Monday.
I cannot comment on that because it really depends on the members of the House once they reach the plenary, no? Kasi as you have said, hindi pa sila na-receive sa office ni SecGen. After that, there should be transmittal to happen from office of SecGen to Speaker. And then from Speaker, 10 session days ba to refer it to the plenary, no? So kung mag-abot-abot sila sa plenary, it really depends on the House members what they're going to do about it, that there are 3 impeachment complaints.
And what is your sense? I know you haven't seen your colleagues yet, but I'm sure you have chat groups, Congresswoman. As early as now, are your colleagues preparing, and you as well, and your co-members at the Committee on Justice?
Ayaw nilang magpaabala eh.
They don't want to think
They're
about
busy in
it.
their respective districts eh. No? Pero ako kasi, I am a conservative type of lawyer and I really stick to the rules. So my concern is to take care and receive of the impeachment complaint which will be referred by the plenary to the Justice Committee. No? Actually, what's happening in the Office of the Secretary General is really exclusive upon her. What's happening in the Office of the Speaker is exclusive upon him. What's happening or what will gonna happen in the plenary will depend really on the members of the House. Right now, we are 313, no? So kung mag-abot-abot yan sa floor, sa plenary, it depends on them whether the first impeachment complaint will be referred to the Justice Committee, which will technically bar the proceeding with respect to the 2 subsequent complaints, no? Or should they consider transmitting all these 3 at the same time? if that will happen, then we will be prompted, as far as I know, we will be prompted to consolidate these 3 impeachment complaints before the Justice Committee.
But Congresswoman, at the same time, there's a big question mark when it comes to the impeachment process because the Supreme Court has yet to rule on this pending motion for reconsideration on the impeachment complaint last year. Given that uncertainty, Congresswoman, aling rules po ba ang susundan ng Committee on Justice while we await a decision of the Supreme Court?
You're correct about that, no? But we have to distinguish under what mode ba is this impeachment complaint being filed, no? Let us share to our kababayan, our fellow countrymen. Dalawa po ang modes of filing an impeachment complaint. One is by private individual, sponsored by a House member. And this is the case in the first impeachment complaint against the President. It can also be done by the House member himself, at least for the first mode, yung dalawang yon, no? But for the second mode, ito po yung filed and verified by at least 1/3 of the members of the House. And this is what happened in the impeachment complaint against Vice President, which was declared by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. However, there is a pending motion for reconsideration of the House of Representatives, which remains unresolved by the Supreme Court. To me, that decision of the Honorable Supreme Court hasn't ripened yet into a jurisprudence because it hasn't reached its finality because of the pendency of the MR. No? Now, I am sharing these 2 important modes to answer your question, anong gagawin? Halimbawang merong subsequent or second impeachment complaint. It depends. If it will be filed under the first mode, then referral to the Justice Committee is mandatory. Now, if it will be filed under the second mode, similar to the first impeachment complaint, na supported ng 1/3, there lies the problem. Because the question is, what rule are we going to apply? No? If we will be following the decision of, if the House of Representatives, because this is not my call, this is the call of all the members, if the HREP will be following the decision of the Supreme Court, technically we are withdrawing already our motion for reconsideration. No? And we have to understand also, itong notice and hearing requirement really does not appear under the Constitution and under the present rules. Nasama lang to because of the Supreme Court decision. No? Nonetheless, I wish to express my highest regard and respect to the Supreme Court, and we recognize them as the final arbiter of all controversies arising from laws and rules which are being interpreted. No? Now, if we will do the other way, follow the letters of the Constitution, which is my type of lawyer because I am conservative, I stick to the rules. If we will follow the letters of the Constitution, transmit immediately to the Senate, we might be facing another petition.
Exactly.
Another petition questioning the constitutionality of that impeachment complaint, and eventually we might be declared again as unconstitutional. So that is the problem.
Exactly. And some people we've spoken to say that perhaps that's the reason the Supreme Court has not decided on that MR yet. Because either way they rule, a lot of people will be upset. But Congresswoman, I'm sure you're also well aware of the potential that you could be entering, coming back from recess, with having to deal with impeachment complaints for 2 people, for the President and the Vice President, because February 6th is just around the corner, and that's when the 1-year prohibition bar expires on the VP's impeachment. What is the game plan there?
Well, this is a constitutional duty, no? And whether we like it or not, we have to discharge our function as members of the Justice Committee. Let me express lang, I have full faith and confidence to the 38 members of the Justice Committee, and I am confident whether this is 1 or 2 separate impeachment complaints against the highest official and against the second highest official, I am confident that the members of the Justice Committee can discharge their function very well.
Okay, but as we all know, of course, and we keep saying this over and over again since last year, impeachment is very much a political exercise. Having said that, Congresswoman, you mentioned two modes, diba? So right now, we're only dealing with mode one, right? Filer backed by a House
Yes.
member, etc. So the Supreme Court MR is not so meaningful as of the moment. But in terms of appetite,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, in terms of appetite, right, for an impeachment in the 20th Congress, is it still there under new leadership, under the new speaker who has said he's kind of, on the fence about it?
But whose impeachment are we talking about? The president's or the vice president's?
He just said, I think it was in general impeachment. I guess we used to assume
For any
it was
impeachment.
Yeah.
Okay, appetite for any impeachment.
Well, I have some colleagues who are commenting that they felt frustrated about what happened to the first impeachment complaint. And somehow this would affect the appetite, quote unquote, that you are referring to with respect to the present and possibly the subsequent impeachment complaints which might be filed against the president and the vice president, no? Pero right now kasi wala tayong masyadong makausap eh. Perhaps we will have an interesting discussion with our colleagues once they're back this January 26.
And you personally, what are you doing? Are you in advance reading up? Because kayo po yung chairperson, so medyo quote-unquote lugi po kayo, no, compared to the other members, because you're the head of the committee.
Since I confirmed the first impeachment complaint of the president, I admit that I went back to my impeachment materials and went back to reading of the rules. I really need to review myself about the rules on impeachment.
Okay, and then we'll touch base with you again after that, once session resumes and you have made a decision on the way to go. But for now, we'll leave that there. Thanks so much for talking to us. House Justice Committee Chair, Congresswoman Jinky Luistro.